It's sort of stunning to me that we see this clip of Senator Van Hollen when it's basically a foregone conclusion that the U.S., at the very least, as according to Axios, I believe it is, two sides were able to find agreement. This is talking about the second tranche of funding that could run out on Friday. Two sides were able to find agreement on U.S. aid for the Palestinians. Currently, such aid is funneled through the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA. But after Israel alleged that a dozen UNRWA employees were involved in October 7th terror attacks by Hamas, the United States froze such aid. Under the new bipartisan deal, U.S. aid to Palestinians can't be routed through UNRWA through at least March of 2025.
It's insane. Jeez. Insane, because this is the way this is the most efficient way for aid to get to the Palestinian people right now. And what's quite inefficient is building a temporary port and airdropping aid onto people that is just like a single percentage point of what they need. It's also airdropped aid also killed Palestinian children last week as well.
But the bottom line is you can get the aid to the docks, but how you distribute it, there is one agency that has been there for years that has a network of distribution. It's also going to impact, and just to be clear, U.S. has been in, I guess, in the best of times for Gaza, the providing about 1/3 of UNRWA's total budget, and U.S. provided somewhere between $300 and $400 million, I believe it was. This is an existential crisis for UNRWA, and then obviously also for people in Palestine, not to mention in Lebanon and Jordan too, where it functions. But here is Senator Chris Van Hollen basically reiterating in part what the EU humanitarian chief said, which is like, there's no evidence of anything that they claimed. Never mind the idea of taking an agency with 13,000 people and saying we're going to cut their funding because of the actions of 12 people, supposed alleged actions of 12 of their employees, is absurd. It's absurd, particularly when you note that, like, even pre-October 7th, unemployment in Gaza was 50%. Yeah. So it's not like there's that many people who are employing people. And it's just absurd. But here is Van Hollen. Meanwhile, the deal that is on the table is going to defund UNRWA for at least a year.
Report prepared by the Director of National Intelligence about the Netanyahu government claims about that agency. You seem to be implying that the links to terror groups are unfounded.
Oh, there's no doubt that the claim that Prime Minister Netanyahu and others are making that somehow UNRWA is a proxy for Hamas are just flat out lies. That's a flat out lie. If you look at the person who's in charge of operations on the ground in Gaza for UNRWA, it's about a 20-year U.S. Army veteran. Mm-hmm. You can be sure he is not in cahoots with Hamas. Netanyahu has wanted to get rid of UNRWA since at least 2017. That's been his goal, not just in Gaza, but also in the other places you talked about. And if you get rid of UNRWA in Gaza today, it is the primary distribution system for food and aid. So if you cut off funding for UNRWA in Gaza entirely, it means more people will starve, more people won't get the medical assistance they need, and so it would be a huge mistake to cut them off.
Can you explain why you believe that the prime minister is trying to dismantle UNRWA, which is the agency that has 13,000 people distributing aid? No one else has that kind of infrastructure in Gaza.
Well, that's exactly right. And there have been allegations made by the Netanyahu government that up to 14 of those 13,000 people were involved in the horrific October 7th attacks. We should investigate it. We should hold all those people accountable. But for goodness sakes, let's not hold 2 million innocent Palestinian civilians who are dying of starvation. Let's not hold them essentially accountable for the bad acts of 14 people. Netanyahu's wanted to get rid of UNRWA because he has seen them as a means to continue the hopes of the Palestinian people for a homeland of their own. Mm-hmm. And he has been opposed to a two-state solution. And this has been his prime.
Yeah. The reason that he wants to defund UNRWA to the what's her last name, Maggie
Brennan.
Margaret Brennan, is because he wants them to starve to death.
Yeah, it's because they feed people. It's not incidental. That's why he wants to do it.
Yeah.
Well, what is stunning about this to me is that you have Van Hollen saying that we are getting outright, unmitigated, bald-faced lies from the Israeli government about something that is pretty material. And this is like, even if we stipulate that the charges against these 12 to 14 members of UNRWA are legit. There's UNRWA has put out a statement, I guess it was last week, that many of its workers were essentially tortured or
forced
confessions on participation by some members of UNRWA in the October 7th attack. But even if we were to stipulate that out of any pool of 13,000 people, you might have other people who might be involved in, in that attack. You've got a U.S. senator basically saying that the Israeli government is now just lying.
Yeah.
Not that, as far as Schumer went, was, we think he's ill-intentioned. We think he's not doing it right. Whatever it is. This is now they're just lying to us. And yet, when you look at this budget deal, they're still trying to promote the idea that we're going to give an extra $14 billion to the Israeli government. But at the same time, we're also agreeing that we're going to essentially crash UNRWA by destroying its funding. It's
aid in the starving to death of people in this genocide. I spoke to Bill Deere weeks ago, who is the director of the Washington office of UNRWA, and he said originally in response to the claims, they provided no evidence. They have provided no evidence for their claim that up to 14 members of UNRWA participated in the attack. And he stopped short there, essentially, of making a proclamation about those claims, because even though I thought most of what Van Hollen said there was very good, he is going to be reticent to make that case because the Democratic president took those claims without any evidence at face value, and immediately on the day that it was determined that Israel is plausibly committing genocide in the International Court of Justice, Biden took those claims with zero evidence at face value. So as much as I appreciate Van Hollen being a good voice on this, he needs to go further and directly call out the president for buying into this BS.
Yeah, this is where it becomes wider than just Israel. This is the entire West lined up the exact same day that ICJ report came out to do this, and it's complicity in the famine, the intentional famine of Palestinians going on right now.